Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Into the Arena podcast. I'm your host, Sean Corcoran, here with co-host Andrew Wood. How are you today, Andrew?
I'm good, man. You dressed a lot better than me today. You kind of make me feel insecure, but that's
It's been
okay.
a long time since I put on a collar, so I thought I would make myself feel like I'm working today. We have a lot of information coming at you today. We're going to talk about the abortion pill. We're going to talk about how the abortion pill is being used to poison women. We're going to talk about how the abortion pill is being used to poison water. We're going to talk about how the proponents of the abortion pill are covering up the actual negative effects of the abortion pill. And I think it's really important as we get into this conversation, because people will point this out, that neither Andrew nor I are doctors. We are aware of this. However, we have the ability to read. I'm going to include links to every single thing we talk about in the show notes. And I think it's also important to point out that I've already done interviews on this page with Dr. Haywood Robinson, who is a former abortionist, with Dr. George Delgado, who is the founder of the Abortion Pill Reversal, and with Dr. William Lyle, the pro-life doc. All of them talked about this information. So if you need a medical source in order to verify the things we're saying, please go back, watch those episodes, or check the links in the bio or in the description, because what we're talking about is not medical advice. What we're doing is we're sharing information that is publicly available, but that people aren't aware of. This is going to be something that I think is going to be really eye-opening for everybody. Before we get started, what I want to ask you to do, if you enjoy these conversations, if you like what we are doing, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to our channel. I'm going to ask you to click that like button at the bottom of this video, and share this video with other people who may not be aware of what's going on in the abortion industry, especially men, because our role here, or our goal here, is to really engage men in the pro-life movement, to get them informed, to get them aware, to get them to understand that they have a role in this movement and that they have the ability to help sway the cultures so that we can ultimately end abortion. So with all that aside, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the abortion pill. And I'll start by letting you, Andrew, if you don't mind, just kind of explaining the process of the abortion pill, how it works, and and what we can do about it.
Yeah, I think often when we talk about abortion, you hear people even say phrases like chemical abortion, surgical abortion, and a lot of times you're like, chemical abortion? What is a chemical abortion? Well, a chemical abortion is the abortion pill. It is a 2-pill process, and so what's out there right now and what is happening, really what got ramped up even more in 2020, when all bets were off. You couldn't go see a doctor, so telemedicine kind of became this this thing that we had to get in front of everybody. You had companies, businesses start up, not just in our country but around the world, shipping abortion pills to the homes of women and men with no oversight. I mean, I could go on right now and I could get abortion pills delivered to my house. And I'm a 41-year-old man with a wife of 19 years and 6 kids, and they wouldn't ask me any questions. I could get them shipped to the house, even though in Tennessee the law says that's against the law. We could still do it because it's hard to enforce that law. And so in 2020, when all that happened, we started shipping these pills to people's homes. And the process of taking the abortion pill is you take the first pill, which is called mifepristone, and the names of these pills don't necessarily matter, but if you read an article and they're labeling what these pills are, it's helpful to understand that. So you take the first pill, and that first pill is designed to starve the baby. Now, the abortion proponents will say it's not a baby, it's a clump of cells, it's a what blob of tissue, whatever they want to call it. But the reality is there is something growing inside of the woman in the pregnancy. We say it's a human because we know it is. I was growing inside of my mom. Sean, you grew inside of your mom. That's just the reality. And so the first pill is designed to cut off progesterone. And progesterone is designed to keep a healthy pregnancy. A woman naturally produces that. And so the first pill, mifepristone, will cut that off, starve the baby of the nutrients and resources that it needs to survive. And then 24 to 48 hours later, you take the second pill, which is called misoprostol. I'm not going to say that I got that pronounced it right, but that's That's the second pill. And that second pill is designed to cause contractions and labor to expel what is inside the body. Now, again, they're saying it's a blob of tissue. It is a human. And we're going to get into why these things matter, because people are doing this at home and they're either flushing things or abortion pills are going down the toilet into the water system. There's a lot of things that are happening. But I think it's important we understand the process of the two-step pill. And so typically this is what it's approved for is between 10 to 11 weeks. No more than that. So up to 10 to 11 weeks of pregnancy. But what I know from working inside of a pregnancy center, what Sean knows from his interviews is they're not, most of the time, the abortion industry is not looking or trying to prove how far along that woman is. What's happening is a woman is saying, I think I'm, 8 weeks. I think I'm 10 weeks. I think I'm, and in reality, they may be 15, 16, 17 weeks. Well, that changes things because the baby now has progressed in size and development. And now you're entering into, you're cutting off progesterone. You're having delivery at home, and it is not a good thing at all for women to be doing. And so I think it is important that we understand the process. I've talked to pastors, I've talked to politicians even, and said, do you know what a chemical abortion is? Do you know how the abortion pill works? And the reality is most people do not know. They just hear abortion pill, they think you take it and baby no longer exists. I think that's how most people think. I'll take this pill, I was pregnant, now I'm not pregnant, I can go on with my life. But what happens is a lot more than that. And women are having to deal with this at home most of the time, very little oversight. They're being told by the abortion industry, if you have complications, if you bleed, if you need to go to the ER, tell the ER doctors that you think you're miscarrying. They're instructed to do this. We know this because we've been told that by clients. And so that's the reality. That's kind of what we're seeing in our country right now. And then you look at what we've seen across the U.S. with some movement to even limit the use or ban the use of that first pill. And we've seen that in different parts of the country. We even saw governments in Seattle and governments in different states around the country stock up on mifepristone, that first pill, because they thought the government was going to outlaw it. So they stocked it up. They encouraged women to put it in your medicine cabinet for a rainy day, which is just bonkers and insane. We would never say that about any other medication. But they're telling folks to do it with the abortion pill. And so what some in the abortion industry have said is, fine, we'll just skip the first pill altogether and we'll just take the second pill that will cause early labor and we'll go from there, which there's a lot more complications that come with that. And so on and so forth. So I think it's important that we understand what the abortion pills do, what they're designed to do. And just like we've said on past episodes, a botched abortion. So it's important that we use their language. A botched abortion means a baby is still alive. So a successful abortion means that there were two heartbeats, mom's heartbeat, baby's heartbeat, and now there's only one heartbeat. So in order for an abortion to be successful, heartbeats have to be extinguished. I think it's important that we do not gloss over that topic. In order for an abortion to be successful, heartbeats have to be extinguished. That is not medicine. That is an agenda that is saying we do not need more life. You need to sacrifice future generations for yourself. That is not the way we've been brought up. Is certainly not the value system that we would hold. So I do think it's important that we understand where we're at currently, not just in the U.S., but around the globe.
Yeah. And then, I think it's important also to, in understanding how the abortion pill works, especially the mifepristone, I think that it's important to at least touch on the abortion pill reversal, and like I said, you can get an in-depth conversation about that with watching the interview with Dr. George Delgado. And I have another one planned with him as well, because he's just written a book about this. But basically, the abortion pill reversal process is to is an influx of progesterone. I'm not certain of the mechanism by which, like, I know that you had described miscarriages, and that your wife had this for the same reason, so
So our second pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. And so with our third pregnancy, the doctor, the OB, prescribed my wife progesterone. Again, a woman naturally produces this. And all the doctor said was, your second pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. We're going to give you a little bit more progesterone to try to help this pregnancy along if it needs it. It was not harmful in any way. It was just saying, we want to create an environment that is best for this child growing inside of you. And that's what progesterone does. And so after one takes that first pill, mifepristone, if they have second thoughts, or if they regret that decision, or God forbid somebody slipped something in their drink and they didn't even know until they got home that somebody put that first pill in their drink, they can take progesterone, go to a pregnancy center, go to an OB, and they can be given progesterone. And again, it's not foolproof, but it is very likely that it will reverse the effects of that first pill.
Yeah. And so as of today, there have been over 7,000 successful, meaning that the baby was born, delivered alive, healthy baby delivered alive, successful abortion pill reversals. So, there's a lot of information out there that says that the abortion pill reversal is fake, that it doesn't work, but there are 7,000 documented cases of abortion pill reversal being successful. And I think the more we get this information out, because it was just 2 years ago that it was 5,000, right? So the number is not increasing, along a linear line. It's increasing exponentially. And I think that that's probably because the abortion pill is increasing exponentially. I think right now Guttmacher suggests that it's about 60% of abortions. I think that it's pretty broadly known or understood that it's higher than that, because Guttmacher's information comes from Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is not the only supplier of abortion pills, and it's self-reporting. So there's probably a higher percentage of abortions than 60% being done by abortion pill, which means they're being done in bathrooms, they're being done in dorm rooms, they're being done in the kitchen. Babies are just being delivered, and we put out a video the other day, and somebody commented and said, this is the reason that men need to be educated about the women's reproductive system, because these guys don't even know what happens when an abortion pill is taken. And the problem is that what happens when the abortion pill is taken is not what they're telling you is going to happen. In many, many cases, yes, there may be cases where what you are told and what happens fall in line, but there are many cases, and all of these are documented stories. There are entire Reddit threads of people posting pictures of what, the product of conception, and being shocked that, hey, this is not what they told me was going to happen. This is not a blood clot. This is a human being, and people just like appalled. And then on the other side of that, there's the abortion pill sellers are now using those same images as evidence that their pills work, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not hiding it anymore. And anyone who thinks that the abortion pill is just causing blood clots, is not paying attention to what's going on. And while you can criticize Andrew and I for not being doctors while we're sitting up here talking about this, I'm going to criticize you if you do that for not using your internet to just search for this stuff, because it's easy to find and it's available, and there will be links to some of these in the show notes.
Well, and oftentimes too, the very people that are saying, well, you're a man and you're not a doctor, are also not doctors. And so they're the ones that hey, you can't say that because you're not a doctor. And I'm like, well, but you can say it, because why again? And so I just think it's important that,
should we challenge them along the lines of gender? Like, unless they are a gender medical professional, then how can they call us men?
Yeah, well, then they may say they studied that, they majored in gender studies. But I do think it's important that if you are going to claim that women's health is your be all end all, then you're not going to get a free pass when you tell those same women to go home and take a pill that's going to make them bleed exponentially and then say, hey, just suck it up. Don't worry about it if what you're holding in your hands happens to look like a child.
Right.
You don't get a free pass for saying that. That is not loving. That is not caring, and it's certainly not. I love it because most of the folks that are saying that would call themselves progressive. That is not progressive.
Right.
We live in the greatest country on the planet, and we have progressed in many ways. But women sitting at home in their dorm rooms, in their family homes, and taking an abortion pill and dealing with the ramifications of that at their own house with no medical oversight is not progress. It just isn't.
Delivering babies in the toilet is not women's empowerment. Like,
it is not.
When you picture an image, like if I asked ChatGPT to create an image of women's empowerment, it is not going to be a woman crying in the bathroom in suffering and pain as she passes, a human embryo into the toilet. And that's exactly what the abortion industry is pushing on us. And that's exactly what the abortion pill does. And you mentioned something earlier about how you could, as a man, who's not allowed to have an opinion on abortion, but you could still order the abortion pill, which is crazy in and of itself. And, there's a couple of examples, and I'll include a link to a story that someone that I'm familiar with shared, where she ordered the abortion pill through text message. And the conversation essentially said that she thought she was 11 to 12 weeks, no, 12 to 13 weeks pregnant at that time. And the person said, that's fine. Now, keep in mind that the abortion pill currently is indicated for no farther than 11 weeks, but they were going to send it to her, even though at that time she thought she was 12 to 13 weeks, which means by the time it arrived, she would be 13 to 14 to 15 weeks. Right. And so these people don't care. They are willing to put you in danger for that sale, and I think that that's what's important, is that this is a business. This is a sale. This is drugs. This is no different than the guy on the street lacing your Xanax with fentanyl. Like, they don't care what happens to you after you purchase it. They're going to tell you, what they need you to hear so that you will purchase it. And then, you're left with you're never going to see that person. Heck, in California now, they've got a law where they can prescribe the abortion pill anonymously. We've got New York State, who's being sued by multiple states, I think Texas and Louisiana. The Louisiana case was a mom who ordered the abortion pill from a doctor in New York State for her daughter, who was planning a gender reveal party, right? This is not women's empowerment. This is not women's choice. This young lady wanted to have a baby and was excited about it. Her mom didn't want her to have a baby, so her mom gave her the abortion pill. And then when Louisiana filed charges against the doctor in New York, the attorney general or governor, Kathy Hochul, I think is the governor, came out and said, we're going to protect this doctor. Like, they don't care what happens to you. They are willing to make sure that you have abortions at all costs. And I think that that's incredibly important, but it's also incredibly dangerous, and it should be scary to everyone.
Well, and even the illustration you gave of the drug dealer on the street, I would argue the drug dealer on the street's ultimate goal is for you to keep coming back. So their goal is not that you would die when you take those pills.
Right.
The crazy part about the abortion industry is the goal behind taking this pill is a life is extinguished. And we have actually failed you if your pregnancy continues. I mean, think about that in the framework at which we talk about this work. The actual goal and mission of the abortion industry is to end life, period.
Right.
And we have actually failed you if you walk out of our building and there are 2 heartbeats left. That, to me, is all we need to say in terms of their mission, their goal, and their efforts. Their efforts are to end the lives of the most vulnerable in our population, those that are in the womb.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to how some of these abortion pill sellers are using the images of dead embryos to say, hey, look, our stuff works. Like, it works. Here's a dead baby. So it's obvious that what we're doing works. You should buy from us. Like, that's a success, right? They're applauding the success of their drug by showing that it works. Now, dude, if it was a blood clot, Like nobody would look at a blood clot on an abortion pill seller website and say, oh, that must have come from an abortion. But if it's a picture of a baby, then clearly that's what happened, right? And so that's why they're using these images. And they're not the only ones that are that are using the abortion pill against women in a really negative way. There are stories, and you brought up you being able to order the abortion pill and poison somebody with it. And there are currently, I've got 6 in front of me, and I had to stop because we don't have time to do an entire episode on, or maybe we would have to do an entire episode on all the stories of the men who have used the abortion pill against the wishes of the mother. Again, no choice, no women's empowerment. This is being used as a weapon against women by men. And look, I'm somebody who is a proponent for masculinity and men stepping up and being men, but I have to acknowledge that there are bad men, and there are bad, and they don't deserve to be in the same sentence as this or the same room as this. And there are men who will use this. I've said before that nobody has benefited more from abortion than weak men seeking to escape responsibility. And I think when you look at who are the pro-choice men, right? Pro-choice men are men who don't want to have, like, yeah, I support you having an abortion because that means that I don't have to take care of a baby, right? But what if you want to, And so if you want to, we currently have in Texas, we have a man who baked the abortion pill into cookies. All of this was caught on video. Baked the abortion pill into cookies and then poured some of it into her tea, at a restaurant to try to poison her with the abortion pill. The tea tasted weird. She didn't eat the cookies. She later had the cookies tested, and that's how they found out that it was baked into the cookies. This man, Justin Banta, is currently being charged with capital murder and evidence tampering in Texas. We have Emerson Evans, who poisoned his girlfriend with the abortion pill against her will. He is charged with intentional homicide in Illinois. Robert Kawada, who gave pills disguised as vitamins, he's been charged in Massachusetts. We have a Marine who has been accused in Texas of spiking drinks with the abortion pill. There's a civil litigation against him there, and then we have the lawyer in Texas who also, he poisoned his wife 6 times. 6 times. Baby was still born. He failed. But he spiked her drinks 7 times. And he pleaded guilty. So this isn't like speculation, right? Like he pleaded guilty to this, to trying to kill his own baby by poisoning his wife with the abortion pill 7 times. And that's just crazy. But these aren't all the stories. This is just what we have time to kind of run through so we can move on to the next thing. And this is what's going to continue to happen. Many of us will see those stories and say, this is atrocious. I cannot believe that a man would do this to a woman because we're good people. But I've posted these stories before, and the comments that I get from pro-choice people defending the man, right, are just insane. And they'll say, I'm not defending him, but everything else they say is defending him. Like, we can't do away with the abortion pill, even if men will order them and poison women against their wishes, right? And so I think it's really important that we be aware of that this is a poison because it kills a human, and it harms in many cases the mother, and when we talk about how it harms the mother, I think that there's actually studies, one that came out in May of 2025 that show that, and this is a study with a data set of 865,727 abortion pill cases, and they found that 10.93% experienced a serious adverse event. Now, if you look at the FDA and you look at the abortion pill manufacturers and the information they're providing, it is less than 0.5%. So we're talking 22 times higher serious adverse events than what they are trying to tell you. 5.25% of people who took the abortion pill required a second abortion attempt due to failure. And 13.5% experienced at least one serious adverse event or repeat abortion attempt. The information being provided by those proponents of the abortion pill is false. When the data is tracked, we can show that it is much more dangerous, not only to the baby that it kills, but to the mother as well.
Not to mention the folks that are going to the ER and not disclosing that they took an abortion pill.
That's right.
And they're saying, oh, it's a miscarriage. I've talked to ER nurses and medical professionals that say that's the case, and they believe that folks have taken the abortion pill. Here's the thing: when we get to a place where the ultimate goal is to end the life of a child in the womb, and there's a market for it, and we know there's a market for it. I mean, it's $1 billion industry. People are going to do whatever they can to make sure the bottom line continues to grow. That's just the reality. And that means that not just folks in our country, but folks around the globe that could care less about any American are going to do all that they can to get these pills in the hands of vulnerable women, of abusive men, and in the life of children moving forward. And we're having to deal with the ramifications of that. Dads and granddads and moms and grandmothers are having to deal with the ramifications of that. Plumbers are having to deal with the ramifications of that. I mean, and the list goes on and on. I mean, we cannot just sweep this under the rug like it's no big deal. I know it makes people uncomfortable to talk about the abortion issue, or to even think that you may have a neighbor down the road that's spiking someone's drink with an abortion pill, or a teenager at the high school felt like she had no other choice, so she went online and bought abortion pills from who knows where. And like, we have to talk about these things because it's affecting us and it's affecting our neighbors. And I think from our standpoint, we believe men should be stepping up and speaking truth and doing so in a leadership role. We cannot sit on our hands while this happens.
That's right. No, I think that's really important. I think that's why you and I are talking about it. And I think that's the reason that we want to get this information into the hands of as many people as possible, because once you know, then you have that obligation, right? And it's easy to hide and stand. It's easy to sit back and say, well, this is a women's issue, and then not pay attention to anything. And and it's the same thing that I tell to the pro-choice people when they make their ridiculous comments on all of my posts is I understand that you have to accept that as your answer, because once you look at the reality and once you understand what's actually happening, then you have to admit that you support the ending of innocent human lives. And that's not a good place for anyone. No one wants to be in that position. And so that's what we're talking about, though. And so as men, I think it is incredibly important that, we acknowledge what's going on, because if we don't acknowledge what's going on, then it's just going to continue to happen. And, and I have a lot of other thoughts on that, but I don't want to distract from it too much. We'll have to do another episode of my thoughts on men being silent.
Yeah, I think we're just at a place where, the abortion pill is, for all intents and purposes, it is the main driver of abortion today. I would, if it's at 60 now, it'll be at 80% next year. I think it's probably already closer to 80%. California doesn't even report the number of abortions in their state. It's the largest state in the union. And so we know that number is going to continue to increase. And the discussion that some people are starting to have, but we probably should have been having, a decade ago, if not longer, is what is this doing to, and again, it's an uncomfortable discussion, but it's one that we need to talk about, is infrastructure in our communities. And so there was an article out of Texas where a plumber got called because there was some plumbing issues. He goes to fix those plumbing issues and he sees an aborted child. Like, now he's got to live with that for the rest of his life. Right. So here's a plumber just trying to be a plumber, just doing his job, doing his trade, and now he's dealing with this. I've had friends that lead pregnancy centers have dads call and say, I didn't know my daughter took the abortion pills. I'm now holding that aborted baby. What are we supposed to do with this? Crushed. Yeah. Because they don't know what to do with that child. Are people flushing these pills down the toilet, and it's entering into the infrastructure and the systems? I mean, these are questions that, again, people are uncomfortable about talking about. And some states are finally starting to realize, hey, we might need to look at some legislation to handle this. But I even think about the person that delivers my mail. I'm in a rural community. They don't even drive a mail truck. They just drive a truck, that kind of mailman. And they could be, unbeknownst to them, delivering the mechanism that will end the life of a child in the womb. And so we have government workers delivering abortion pills to houses all across the country. Yeah. And we're just supposed to be, well, it's okay. They're just doing their job. Like these are questions that we need to be having. And then we have foreign actors that are seeking to poison and hurt our fellow citizens in this country. And there's very little we can do about it because you can easily get on the website and get the pills delivered to your door. And again, these are questions that we need to be wrestling with as a society. Are we okay with that? Is that progress? And I think any person that is willing to look at this objectively, you cannot argue that's progress.
Right. You
just can't.
Yeah. In contrast to being progress, we're actually looking at declines. We're regressing. And one of the places that I think that it's really becoming well known that we're regressing is in fertility. It's the data is clear. And this is not right wing data. This is not left wing data. This is just data that fertility rates in the United States are dropping. Why is that important? Well, there can be 15 different reasons about why it's important, but it's clearly important or nobody be reporting on it, right? And so if the left's reporting on it and it's important, the right's reporting on it and it's important, then it's an important thing that fertility rates are dropping. If we're concerned that fertility rates are dropping and we are putting into our drinking water, into our wastewater, which goes into our drinking water, something that causes fertility to be negatively affected, then we're failing as a society. We're just going to continue to see decreases in fertility rates, and I think you found a lot of data on, or a lot of information on things related to how this is getting into the water systems. And that was the last thing really that we wanted to talk about today was, we're not only poisoning women, we're not only poisoning babies, but we're poisoning society as this gets into our water. And, and there's multiple studies now that show that this is having an impact. And if we don't do something about it, and as you and I have both just said, the abortion pill increases, then this is only going to increase. And so, so it's important that we know about it so that we can do something about it.
Well, and too, yeah, there's an article over at World News that talks about in Wisconsin, Republican lawmakers highlighting a regulatory push among pro-life leaders over municipal wastewater. And even some Republicans, some quote unquote pro-lifers, have an issue with this. Obviously, the abortion proponents have an issue with this because if they admit that abortions are occurring and waste and tissue, humans being flushed, or abortion pills are being flushed, and that could affect the water supply, if they admit that, then they have to look in the mirror and deal with their position and their ethical position on the issue of abortion. And then you have some quote unquote pro-life lawmakers who are like, well, I don't want to sound crazy, so I'm not gonna. I mean, when I say I'm pro-life, I mean I'm kind of pro-life. I don't want to like step out on a limb and be one of those radical people like we are, Sean. And so as we're thinking through this is a conversation that is happening because we're seeing the effects of it. Now, here's what happens in any kind of research, any kind of study, is you have bias. And so that's what I love when they're like, you're not a doctor. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're not either. And you act as if I have a bias and you don't. I mean, that's just bonkers. Of course, all of us have our bents.
The only reason to point out that you're not a doctor is because of the bias.
Yeah. And so all of us have those things. I always think it's funny that they say those things, men are terrible. And I'm like, well, actually, men on the Supreme Court is what gave you Roe v. Wade in the first place. So a lot of white men in black robes gave you the abortions that you wanted. So, but I digress. And so as we're thinking through this, we have to come to a place where we're willing to look at this objectively And the problem, whether it's the abortion pill reversal, they try to do a study to prove that the abortion pill reversal doesn't work. And while they were doing that study, the only complications they had were from the women that didn't take progesterone. They only took mifepristone, which is the first abortion pill. And they had massive bleeding, massive complications. And what did they do? Did they continue the study to see, hey, maybe there's some issues here? No, they just stopped the study because it was not doing what they wanted it to do. And look, I'm not going to act as if there's not, folks on the right and the left that do studies to meet their, ultimate hypothesis. Obviously, that happens. But I think when it comes to our drinking water, when it comes to our infrastructure, we need to be looking at this objectively and saying, do we think it is a good thing, objectively, for a 15-year-old girl, for a college freshman, for a college senior, for a 25-year-old woman, for a 30-year-old woman? Do we think it is a good thing for them to go on the internet, order abortion pills, take those abortion pills, bleed at home, go into labor, expel the baby from inside their womb, and not have any kind of mechanism, not have any kind of best practices, not have any kind of oversight from medical professionals, the very ones that gave them the abortion pills, to take the next step? And the reality is, the abortion industry is not giving these women any kind of information. Hey, once this happens, here's what you need to do. Now, some states are trying to put that into law, and I don't know if that ultimately happened, but we as a populace, right, left, everywhere in between, pro-life, pro-choice, pro-abortion, whatever it is, again, what's the goal behind what we're doing? Now, obviously, our goal is that, we'll put our cards on the table, is that abortion would be gone forever. That's our goal. But
Right.
but while we're in the current place that we're in, all I'm saying is, don't claim to care for women when these things are happening, and don't claim to care for my community when you're poisoning my water and in our infrastructure. That's just, and when plumbers are having to come and deal with the ramifications that we would have never dreamed of 20 years ago. No one was thinking 20 years ago a plumber is going to see that when they go to fix a plumbing issue at a house. No one 20 years ago was thinking your local mailman was going to be delivering abortion pills to your front door so that your daughter could end the pregnancy. No one was thinking that. But we don't have the luxury of not thinking about that today. We have to think about that today. We have to.
In addition to to the poison, what are the solutions? I know that there's been some proposals for catch kits. Can you kind of explain what a catch kit is?
Yeah, I mean, and look, some of these are going to be even make pro-lifers uncomfortable. And so a catch kit would be sending home, either from the abortion clinic or even some pregnancy centers are starting to do this. Hey, if you take these pills, here is what will happen. So it's an education tool. This is what abortion does. This is what these pills are designed to do. Very similar to what we started this episode off with, the kind of walking through the process. A catch kit would tell them this is what it's going to do. Now, when you start contracting and when you expel the contents of your uterus, which is, we would say the baby, here's a catch kit so that you can, and this is to me grotesque, but here's a catch kit so you can dispose of the contents of your uterus. Now, that is their language. That's the abortion industry language. Contents of your uterus is dehumanizing what is actually happening. We would say you're going to have labor. You're going to deliver your child. Your child is not going to be alive. And this catch kit will allow you to dispose of that. And so it wouldn't be like we recently saw a story out of Kentucky where a young lady put it in her closet. She delivered a baby, put it in her closet. The baby died, or put it in a trash can. Or you've heard where in some instances folks have just delivered in a toilet or whatever. Again, these are very, very they sound grotesque and atrocious. But again, we are not setting these women up for success because they're being told, take these pills. You were pregnant and now you won't be pregnant. They're not being told all the other stuff that's coming along with that. And so the catch kits would be designed to do that. Now, we could talk about whether we agree with that or not. Is that actually encouraging an abortion or not? But I think at the very least, if you're watching this today and you are a state legislator or you are a congressman, these are conversations that need to be happening. For years ago, we had a discussion about whether abortion clinics should be ambulatory and have be able to have rights or be able to work within the local hospital. And the abortion industry pushed back on that. There's no reason that we should be ambulatory. If they have an issue, they should just be able to go to the ER. So ultimately, the abortionists are saying, after they take the pills or after I do my service, they're no longer my problem. The question that we need to be having now is, what's the abortion industry doing? What are these online suppliers doing for the women? What steps are they providing for these women once the pills have been taken at home? Once the bleeding starts, once the remains are expelled, what is the next step? And the next step cannot be just go to the ER or, huddle down, or, it's probably best if you do this on a Friday so you have the whole weekend to kind of deal with it. Like, that's what they're telling them.
Right.
Imagine going to a doctor and they say, hey, take these pills. It's going to be rough. So I would recommend you do it on a Friday so that you don't have to deal with work or life over the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you would go, excuse me, what? You're not going to be there with me through the process? Anyone going to hold my hand? Anyone going to walk with me through this process? I thought it would be I was pregnant and now I'm not pregnant. And the reality is your body is saying, I'm going to have this baby, and a pill comes in and says, oh, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And so what the abortion industry wants to do is make it out like, oh, it's just a miscarriage. No, my wife went through a miscarriage, and my wife sobbed when our child was born, in essence, at home. No pill. And so we wept over the child that we were longing for. So to act as if this is just a miscarriage is so far from the truth, and is a lie to women everywhere. And I think even some these men who are doing what they've been doing, I think in their mind they're thinking, well, from everything I see, it'll just make them not pregnant. So what's the big deal?
Right.
And it's like, no, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. Like, you're causing crippling pain. I did an interview with with Niles Pinkney, who is the men's director at Support After Abortion, and he was explaining the process that his girlfriend at the time went through, where she was told this is going to be like a bad period, and they ended up having to go to the hospital. Like, this is not like a bad period. Like, he was like, this is not what they said was going to happen. Passed out. He had to carry her. This is it's lies, and if they have to lie to you about what it is that is going to happen to you, then you should be really aware of why is it that they're lying to you. If it's so good, why do they have to lie to you? If it's safer than Tylenol, then why do they have to lie to you? Because nobody that I'm aware of has ever taken a couple Tylenol and then bled out on the bathroom floor. So the idea that it's safer than Tylenol is just, it's clearly a lie. It's not even a good lie. It's a bad lie. It just doesn't even make sense.
And when I go get Tylenol at the local pharmacy, they're not saying, hey, maybe wait till Friday.
Yeah.
You're going to be out of commission for a few days after you take a couple of these. And again, it's just if it wasn't such a serious issue, it would be laughable, because it's like you can say this with a straight face. when this is the thing that's always drove me nuts about abortion. Every human you put your eyes on started in the womb. Every one of them. It doesn't matter if they're filthy rich. It doesn't matter if they're poor. It doesn't matter if they have good parents, bad parents, in the foster system, in state custody, in prison. None of that matters. We all started at the exact same place. So to argue that it's not a life, and to argue that we're not dealing with life and death when it comes to abortion is so, I mean, you want to talk about science is so anti-science. And for us, obviously, anti-biblical worldview, because God created life. I mean, Jesus and John the Baptist interacted with each other while they were in the womb.
Yes.
Mary walks into her cousin. She's pregnant with John the Baptist, and John is doing somersaults because the Savior walked in the room while he was in his mom. So from a biblical perspective, if you're watching this and you claim the mantle Christian, this shouldn't even be a discussion. Like, we shouldn't even have to convince you of anything. But if you're on the fence or skeptical about what's happening, and if you say, well, that God stuff, you can keep that to yourself, then I would just say, look at your friends and neighbors, and are you okay with your friends and neighbors taking these pills at home, dispelling of the contents inside the water system, inside the waste system, in our communities, and then dealing with the ramifications of that for the rest of their life and the trauma that comes with that.
Right.
Like, these are the things that we have to wrestle with. I am not pro-life because of these things that happen. I'm pro-life because my God compels me to be pro-life. My Bible compels me to be pro-life. My faith compels me to be pro-life. But all these other things, these articles that'll be in the description, all these other things, to me, are just icing to say, yeah, this is nonsense. And like you said, this is regressive, not progressive. And
right.
This is not where we want to be. America is the freest country on the planet. But when it comes to abortion, we're right in line with North Korea and China. Like, is that the company we want?
Right.
Is that the company we want when it comes to the most vulnerable in our community? I mean, I've had folks. I grew up on a farm. We have goats and horses now, and people will stop in and be like, they used to stop at my dad's place and be like, hey, your cows are cold. You need to do something with you just had a calf born. You need to do something to protect that calf. And we're like, well, we're going to. We have barns and hay and things like that. But they drive by an abortion clinic and they show their support. I mean, we've kind of gotten things out of whack when it comes to where we prioritize life,
right,
and where we devalue and dehumanize a child in the womb, even though all of us, that's where we begin. The only difference between me now today and me when I was in my womb is size and proximity. Same DNA, same blood type, same organs, same all. Like, all of that is the same. It's just size and proximity. That's the only difference.
And we've got, just to your point about the inability to make the connection between the value of human life versus the value of animal life. There's, I think Gabe Poirot, I'm going to pronounce it like he's from Louisiana because that's how it's spelled. And then I think Shane Winnings did this too on 2 different campuses. Gabe did it on TCU, Texas Christian, and basically went around with a survey saying, or a petition saying, hey, they are aborting puppies. Like they are aborting puppies, and we need to stop how they are aborting these puppies, and people kept signing them. And then after they signed it, they were just disgusted at the idea that humans would go around aborting puppy babies, and they were ready to put their name on the petition to stop the abortion of puppy babies. And then, after they signed, he'd turn it over and he'd say, thank you so much for supporting this, and while we're here, they're also doing this to humans. And the people would walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we care more about the value of a puppy embryo than we do about the value of a human life. And that's not natural. And I think this is something that's really important, and it's so unnatural to be in a position to support abortion that just going back, at this point, 35 years, let's go back to 1990, and let's go back to Bill Clinton, uh, I don't remember the terms that he said, but it was rare and safe and,
Yeah, safe,
and
legal, and rare. That was what they
safe,
used to
legal, and
say.
rare,
Yeah.
and that was it. And that's as far as he could have gotten. He could not have won had he come out and supported abortion the way that they support abortion now, because at that time, people were appalled at the idea that abortion would be regular. It wasn't something that people believed. People in the pro-life movement did not believe that abortion would ever get to the point that it is now. And so that is the natural inclination is, hey, basically what he was saying was there may be circumstances that are just so far out of the mom's control where it is devastating to her health, her well-being, and we need to protect that. And that's it. And that's what he was able to get away with. And now you look at abortion on demand, right? The only way we could go over that 35 years from point A, which is the natural inclination to believe that human life has value and that we should not be killing babies in the womb, to the belief that they are not babies and it's okay to kill them, is for someone else, an external force, to come in and try to tell you for 30 years, 35 years, it's not a baby, it's not a baby, it's not a baby, it's not a baby, it's not a baby. Because back then people knew it was a baby. I mean, my 6-year-old knows it's a baby. Nobody walks up to a pregnant lady and says, "Oh my God, it's a fetus." So look at that. There's a giant clump of cells in there. And so
congratulations on your growth.
Right. It's, you brought up the miscarriage. Like nobody goes to someone who has just lost a child to miscarriage and says, it's not a big deal. It was just a clump of cells. It was just a fetus. Like that's not how we support people. And so it really just gets into, how did we get to this point? And the only way we can get to this point is by external forces telling us what we should believe. And if you believe that abortion on demand is okay, then you have fallen victim to external forces telling you what you should believe. And you are no longer in line with your own ability to be a free thinker, because a free thinker would be able to look at the reality of what's going on with abortion and say, hey, we are killing babies here, and killing babies is not okay, because it's not okay. And therefore, I'm not going to be okay with that. And I think that it's really important that we pay attention to what is it that, because this is happening in other things. It's happening in gender roles. It's happening in other things in our society where, we can sit back and we can say, oh, this is not something that's ever going to happen. This is just something crazy people do. But then the crazy people keep normalizing it, and they keep normalizing it, and they keep normalizing it. And then you're 30 years down the road and it's normalized, and people don't even realize that they have just fallen victim to society or the proponents of these systems telling them what they should believe. And that's the only reason they believe what they should believe, or what they believe.
Well, and even using your illustration, a few years ago, I was at the March for Life in DC. And when we got to the end, there was, a couple dozen women, men, shouting their abortion, women that had smeared fake blood on their crotches, being proud of the ability. I mean, women standing on the Supreme Court steps, taking the abortion pill. And you're thinking, like, I mean, I think even the safe, legal, and rare mantra of yesteryear is going, what is that?
Right.
That's insanity. I mean, we would say that's evil. That is the serpent showing his head in our culture today. And so that's not helpful for anyone. But that has been, like you said, normalized over the years to be anyone that would dare oppose the abortion agenda hates women and is not progressive. I have 3 daughters, 3 sons. I'm married to a woman. I love women. And the thought that someone would look at one of my daughters and say, here, take these pills at home. Don't tell your mom and dad. And just deal with it. If anything happens, just call the ER, and send them home with a brown paper bag and some pills. Like, those folks that we should never as a society be like, oh yeah, that's okay.
Right.
That's where we want to be. That's where we've always dreamed of ending up. And what we're finding is because of that, now we're devaluing life, we're devaluing family. As you said, fertility rates are declining. Even from a very baseline cultural standpoint, society cannot sustain on our current trajectory. And what I mean by that is by sheer numbers. You play this out the way we're going right now, and we end because we're not having enough children to replace those. Like that's how societies operate. That's just the reality of it. And now some would argue, and I might be one of them, that that's by design. You know, that those that are pushing these agendas, that is their ultimate goal, is that there would be none of us left. But I just think we have an opportunity here, and frankly, we have a mission to speak up and say, not on my watch, not for my daughter, not for my wife, not for my daughter-in-law, not for my neighbors. Like, this is not going to happen. And if you are a legislator, if you are working in the county commission, city council, whatever it may be, get an understanding of what is happening in your community. And if you are truly representing your people, you cannot with a straight face say that you're okay with young ladies going home with these pills and getting a pat on the back and saying, good luck with that. That is not science. That's not medicine. And it's certainly not good governance to say that this is what should be happening. And so my prayer, my hope is that folks would start to understand what's unfolding in front of us, and we would get we would be at a place where we're willing to step up and go, no, not okay. We need to pass these laws. Certainly, we need to do some of those things legislatively, but we also need to roll our sleeves up and be active in our community, educating folks. If you're a pregnancy center out there, this is a great opportunity to educate your partners on what abortion pills really are doing to the community. It's a great opportunity to educate your clients on what abortion pills are doing and the lies that are being told by the industry. When Roe was overturned, I was leading a pregnancy center, and I just did a Zoom call like once a week where we just tried to educate people on what that meant. You know, Roe's overturned. Here's what it means in Tennessee. Here's what it means in New York. Here's what it means in fill in the blank. And I think we have missed some opportunities to help educate the church and educate those that are in partnership and in support with us on the lasting ramifications and the destruction that the abortion pills are causing, not just on women, but on men, and certainly on babies in the womb.
That's right. And I think with that, it's really important to close out by just reminding everybody that it's important for us as men to speak. It's important for us as men to act. It's not enough for us as men to sit back and be passively pro-life, to sit back and be passively anything. We are called to action. We are called to protect, to provide, to lead, to serve, and we are called to leave a legacy that honors God. And we cannot do that if we are sitting in the shadows or sitting silently on the sidelines because someone else has told us that we don't have a right to talk. We have a right to protect our children. We have a right to protect women. We have a right, and we have an obligation to, as men, to do something, you know, to stand up and do something. And so, you know, that's our hope. That's our prayer, is that as we continue these conversations, that we are calling men to action, that we are calling men to lead, and that we are calling men to come out of the off of the sidelines, step into the arena, and to fight for life, for our families, and for this culture.
Amen.
All right, Andrew, this is a great conversation. I look forward to talking to you again next week.
Let's do it.
All right. See you later.